Hello, YouTubers, and welcome back to another episode of Buckshot Thursday here on the Ohio Patriot Education Network YouTube channel. I am, as always, your host, Adam Rogers, the Ohio Patriot. And for today's special episode, we will be discussing the second anniversary of constitutional carry in Ohio, as well as the second anniversary of the founding of the Ohio Patriot Education Network, Second Amendment org. So, got my 2A shirt, obviously. One of my subs sent me a while ago. Got our cool 2A on there. I was hoping to do something special for today's episode, but unfortunately, that was not to be the case. Mostly because of the fact that I didn't get a chance to get a hold of a person to do something for me, because I was going to do a special hat, actually. That was going to be something similar to that shirt, where it would have like the flag on, or it would have our state flag, or our actual state on the shirt. There's what it is, and then it would have like my own emblem on there is what it is for Ohio Patriot Education Network. I was also going to do custom made T-shirts as well on that one. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to do those either. Mostly it's just a whole bunch of stuff is what it is right now, and the real problem with printing stuff like that is what it is. I talked to people about this before. Is what it is there. Is the baseline for anything like that, even if you're doing like a patch or something like that, which I like to do a patch too for that matter, even just doing like a baseline patch to do like the actual like beginning thing of it or whatever the case, because you can do mass production of it then. It's like a couple $100s to start out with, so unfortunately I don't have that kind of cash in me right now, because again I am poor, and I was poor 2 years ago, still poor today is what it is. Even worse now because I lost mom is what it is in the last 6 months. Can't really talk about what actually took her out, but she unfortunately passed away almost 6 months ago to the day right now. Recently celebrated what would have been her 76th birthday this past Sunday. Very, very sad situation all the way around, and just a terrible deal. Terrible deal. She was probably my biggest inspiration for doing what I'm doing right now. And she backed me 100% when it came to the life goals of, fighting for the Second Amendment. What it is there, man, because that's the thing, right? Like, people don't understand this. And I've talked about this many, many, many times over the past couple of years now. And why I fought to do this whole thing is there are far too many people that take an oath to the U.S. Constitution in this country as a politician, as an elected representative of we the people is what it is. And those individuals tend to break that oath very, very quickly, if not almost immediately. Because usually what it is you'll have them, especially with like Congress or state houses and stuff like that, as soon as they get sworn in like that, like the first thing they'll do after that usually is pick a Speaker of the House is what it is, or Senate President, or whatever the case be there is, depending on which chamber they're in. And they will almost immediately break their oath on that one, because they'll pick the biggest sacks of shit possible, who are complete oath breakers themselves, who have been, repeat offenders and stuff like that for years now. And you'll have these jackasses take power, is what it is. And that's what we're seeing right now in Ohio with that piece of shit Jason Stevens right now. A man who was literally had to cut a backdoor deal with every single criminal-ass Democrat in the state of Ohio right now to get his ass into office. Which, by the way, you know who did that the last time around? A guy who is currently sitting in federal prison named Larry Householder, who's the next Speaker of the House. So, if that tells you anything about who Jason Stevens really is, yeah. Not to mention the guys taking people off committee chairs and stuff like that recently, and literally told us like over a year ago that he was going to bring up the Second Amendment Preservation Act that my person been fighting for over 5 years now, before I even had any 2A orgs in this state, what it is here. And yet he still hasn't brought the shit to a floor vote now, here in 2024. As far as I'm aware, they're either on summer break right now, or they're going to go into summer break this coming week, so it'll be then. So, yeah, either way, it's a bunch of shit either way, dude. So, and yeah, Jason Stevens can go fuck himself with it is, dude. I can't wait till his ass gets removed from the speakership next year, and potentially Matt Hoffman jump from the Senate to the state house is what it is there, and then takes over the fucking speaker's role then. Am I going to sit there and say Matt Hoffman is that much better of a, leader and stuff like that? Not really, but he's better than Jason Stevens. I'll tell you that right now. At least he actually seems to give a shit about 2A rights, whereas Stevens clearly doesn't. Like, he was just like a party line fucking Republican at that point, where it's like, oh yeah, you don't want to be like, this is the thing, right? When you look at the state of Ohio, and I'm going to lay things out right now before I go into my whole spiel about my beginnings. Here's what it is, and how I became a 2A advocate and gun owner, stuff like that. What it is, and then we're going to go to a bunch of stories for the day. Is what it is. Most of them are actually out of California. And it's a bunch of gun rights stories and stuff like that. Both, you know, people trying to fuck over our rights and wins that we've had in the last few days. Here's what it is now. So first and foremost, you have I lost train of thought there for a minute, and I think I just got it again. So yeah, basically, from my understanding is, and this is according to Chris Dorff from Ohio Gun Owners, for the last like X amount of General Assemblies, you have had basically Republicans in the state of Ohio who have controlled our state legislature for a long ass time right now, like at least a decade anyway, and been a supermajority. And yet, every year, or every 2 years, I should say, every, you know, whatever General Assembly it is, like 124, 124, 134, whatever it is now. They will sit there and they'll be like, okay, you know, we'll throw pro-gun people a bone. We'll give them like one pro-2A bill assembly, basically is what it is. Instead of just being like, you know what? We have a majority here. Vote through the shit, people. Clean bills, or get the fuck out. And we'll vote somebody who does. Because that's the problem right now entirely I've seen from people just like jumping our General Assembly. And this is why I'm actually looking into legislation next year to potentially do a one county, one rep thing here, where we'd actually get rid of 11 jackasses in our state house and at least 11 in our state senate too, for that matter. Because first and foremost, you have people gerrymandering on both sides of the aisle right now, especially Democrats in major cities. And yet the Democrat Party, the people are always like, oh, well, Republicans in Ohio are gerrymandering on Constitution. No, we're not, dumbasses. You fucking assholes in the Democrat Party are literally creating extra districts in major cities is what it is. So you can have more representation in the state house. And every single one of the fucking cunts that you put in there, whether it be that fucker Casey Weinstein, who hate hooks himself in September 2019, or that fucking cunt Allison Russo, who literally took a bribe on camera from Osmond Action members back in May of 2021, and so forth and so on, or whether it be Paula Hicks Hudson, who sat there and pushed for red flag laws into abuse and the pro-gun legislation, or whether it be Tabby Golonsky, who's not over state house, but she's doing something else now is what it is. She's been behind anti-2A bills too, for that matter. It was either her and Paula flip-flopping each other when it came to red flags, universal background checks, etc. there, which I guarantee you, if our police in this state, if our actual AG in this state, etc., people that actually have the power to do these things, if they actually invest, and I would even say Secretary of State for that matter, Frank LaRose as well, if they would actually do their jobs and investigate where donor money is coming from, I guarantee you there's going to be a bunch of money put in people's personal bank accounts from Michael Bloomberg and Mama's Main Action members, dude. But yet they won't do that shit. They won't actually take the time and investigate bribery in this state. Investigate people who are clearly being paid off to be anti-gunners and stuff like that. And why is that? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because it would actually expose their own fucking corruption? And this is what I said 6 years ago, dude. I am not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican. I am an internet libertarian, a party I created in 2016. A party that takes the best and greatest values from the Constitution and everything else that's great in this country. And the entire point of the matter is, you have so many people screwing over our rights on a daily basis, it's not even funny. Or even worse, you have people that should be putting through clean legislation, like constitutional carry 2 years ago, when it had actually clean bills at that point. You know, obviously it was Ohio Gunners that were the ones that pretty much like wrote that is what it is. I 100% backed it, though, under the Ohioans for Firearms Freedom moniker, because that's what was our original org back in 2021 there. That was the organization that I spent over a year of my life fighting for constitutional carry rights in this state, dude, and I finally got them. Yes, I had a personal stake in that, because I personally could not afford a concealed carry license at the time, nor should I or anyone else in this state have had to do that shit. Because it's nothing else than a fucking extortion fee by the government to tell you, oh, you can now exercise your Second Amendment God-given rights, dude. And it's a bunch of bullshit entirely. All of them are. any fucking permitting fees, anything like that, dude. Whether it be a permitting fee on the Second Amendment, whether it be a permitting fee to go fish, a fishing license or anything else like that, dude. Licensing fees are unconstitutional horseshit in general, dude. Our founding fathers did not fight a goddamn revolution in this fucking country to literally repel the British Empire, only for their descendants to be fucked over by a bunch of tyrannical asswipes, by a bunch of fuckers like piece of shit cheater Joe Biden, going out and literally fucking committing high treason at least 100 fucking times in the last 3 years or so, where this douchebag has multiple times now, including the other day, basically called for the use of F-15 fighter jets against American citizens. Not to mention you got fuckface Eric Sowell, who banged Chinese spies years ago. And then that fucker back in like 2018 or so, I think is what it was, someplace in there, called for nukes against gunners is what it was then. And he's still a sitting congressman to this day. Like, explain that one, will you? Oh, yeah, that's right, you can't, because it doesn't make any sense. Actually, I guess it does, because it's a, 2, 3, 4-tier justice system or society where you let fucking piece of shit politicians like that asshole, or even better yet, back in 2022, you had good old Tim Ryan, scumbag fucking congressman, anti-gun prick boy, who literally called for the murder and assassination of MAGA supporters, and yet a kid was killed a couple days later who was accused of being a pro-Trump dude, and yet Tim Ryan was never brought up on charges at that time, or even expelled from fucking even running for the U.S. Senate at the time, by the way, which he was. Thank God J.D. Vance won that seat. And that's what I'm saying. Like, that, if there's, because I've heard Vance being on the short list of Trump right now, dude. Do not make him VP, dude. There is no need for that. Go get Vivek. Go get somebody else that could be better right now. And I'm not talking about that fucking moron governor in whatever the fuck it's at, like North Dakota, whatever the case be. That Doug Burgum guy is a fucking scumbag sack of shit too, dude. Do not pick that fucking idiot either, for that matter. So that guy will stab you in the back worse than Mike Pence did, bro. For real. Don't make that mistake twice. Anyway. But the entire point I'm trying to make is that, yeah, you have these fucking people that will continue to attack our rights on a daily basis, continue to oath break on a daily basis, and yet charges like deprivation of rights under color of law is not a felony nationwide, which it should be, by the way. Because if it was, we the people could easily remove these people from office. We could literally walk on a state house, walk on a federal house, whatever it is there, and walk into it and literally grab them out of their seat of power in office, handcuff them ourselves as American citizens, and arrest their asses would it be then, dude. Because we should have every legal right to do that right now. Because obviously the people that are in power currently, whether it be feds, whether it be, police, sheriffs, etc. there, like local, police chiefs, local sheriffs, whatever it is there, obviously ain't doing their job to arrest people, even though there's clearly fucking enough evidence there to do that shit, or at least open an investigation of them for like, bribery scandal or, pay to play scandal or something like that is what it is, dude, that would actually, if investigated properly and, given enough time and stuff like that, would definitely have charges brought against them for something at that point. Embezzlement or something else for that matter, or extortion or something like that then. So, anyway. But we're going to go back to the beginnings of my roots here, to what started everything in my fight in this journey and everything like that. So, basically, I was born 1985, January of 85, actually. And so, I was I believe it was like the last year, like one of the last years of the Zennial generation, which is the mix between Gen X and millennials. And so, I grew up knowing about a bunch of stuff. Like, I was always a fan of the Second Amendment and stuff like that. I was always a huge fan of cowboy movies and stuff like that growing up, and Westerns and everything else like that. What is there? Always a fan of the 2A, I'll always love me some, lever actions and revolvers and stuff. Excuse me for a second, gotta go put my nose real quick. Sorry, I think I swallowed some bad shit or something. Yeah, not good. think I'm fighting like a sinus infection or something right now. Or maybe it's just the weather change. I don't know. Either way, it's like 80 something degrees right now is what it is. And it's supposed to be like 90 next week or something, which is going to be insane. Anyway, so basically, as I was saying, grew up, always like the old Westerns, always like the old like cowboy guns and stuff like that's what it was. And then, I was obviously, born at the time period where I was alive to see the assault weapons ban go into place in the 90s. And technically, I got fucked over at 18 years old because I never got a chance to even buy an AR or anything like that at 18, dude, because you still had the AWB in place at the time when I turned 18 in this country in 2003. And so it wasn't until I was like pretty much 20 that I could have legally bought a gun then, specifically an AR or an AK or something like that's what it is. Unfortunately, then I didn't have the money, and that was back in the time period too, for that matter, when you had like all that basically being like a couple of companies. It was like Colt, a couple other ones like that were like, super high end stuff, and it was just like your bare minimum buying was like $1,000 or something more then for ARs, and I think AKs were still like $700-800, something like that's what it is then. So again, too rich for my blood back in those days as a kid just graduating high school basically. And so I was like, whatever then. Kept kind of putting it off. Ended up leaving this area, going down to Columbus back in 2009 to go to college and stuff like that for a little bit of time. Seriously debated when I was down there because I went into a pawn shop one day to go check some stuff out, and I was actually seriously considering buying a gun from this pawn shop, and I probably should have actually back then because that would have been when I was about 25 or so, give or take. Didn't do it. Then, of course, I had that type of interaction before. I had with those two dudes where I was walking back from the Greater Columbus Convention Center down there that one Sunday night because fucking dumbass buses stopped running at a certain amount of time then, which is so stupid. I don't know if they still do that or not. I mean, I understand like the whole maintenance thing, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, like for people like myself at the time, then obviously, because like, things are different now. You can go get like an Uber or a Lyft or something like that then. But yeah, back then it was like you either had the number of a cab company where you were walking. And, I tried to call the cab company. Of course, it's some dude that doesn't speak fucking English is what it is there. Or like English is not his first language kind of thing is what it is there. So it's like super broken English and stuff. To the point where he does not understand where I'm telling him where to go. And eventually I'm just like, you know what, fuck it. I'm just going to start walking home. And then, kind of these two dudes that were trying to fuck with me. And, I had like keys in between my fingers at the time. Basically that one trick from different martial arts classes and stuff like that. Where it's like, yeah, put your keys between your knuckles, basically is what it is for like, if you need to punch somebody in the throat or something like that is what it is there, so you can get like a better jab or whatever then. So that was pretty much my only self-defense there is what it is. Thank God they didn't really want any troubles, what it seemed like then. I think they were going to try to rob me is what it is though, most likely, if I had stopped to like top of them or whatever the case be, but like, I'm not going to do that because at the time it was like, I think 11:30 going on midnight, something like that there. Because I think by the time I finally got back to my place, it was like, right around midnight, I believe is what it is. And that was about maybe 10-15 minutes after I had this interaction with them guys. So it was probably like 11:45, 11:50, give or take then. And I know for a fact that area there where I used to live by, which was near the Short North is what it is there, has gotten so much worse in the last 15 years or so, give or take. So anyway, but yeah, so basically it was, end up coming back here a couple years later, chilled out for a few years there is what it was. And again, still wanted to buy guns back then, but of course it was Obama's administration. And that asshole kept attacking our gun rights every single day. And then of course it inflated prices like fucking crazy. Again and again and again and again and again. And so it was not until Trump's administration that I finally bit the bullet, not quite literally, but, figuratively. But, decide, hey, now, because really at that time we were going towards the midterms and stuff like that. And I saw idiots like AOC becoming, a potential threat to even get in office, what it is there, which that chick's a fucking moron. How she's even still in office right now is beyond me at this point. That's why I've said many times we need a 20th Amendment to the Constitution currently to actually have auto DQs on every seat of power in this country, where it's like, yeah, you do some dumb shit, you attack the Constitution, you attack the Second Amendment, whatever it is there, dude. You're just done. You're done. You want to be a dumbass fucking commie in the United States of America that's a constitutional republic, you can fuck right off to another country, bitch. Because we will permanently exile your ass from this nation, too, on top of that. That's as simple as that, really. So, anyway. And I've said this many times, I'll say it again right now. I truly believe right now, in the last 6 to 7 years now, what is currently known as the left, progressivism, communism, Marxism, cultural revolution, like color revolution is what they want to create right now is what it is there. All these pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas terrorists out there in American soil currently, disrupting congressional baseball games like last night is what it was. And it's these little fuckers, dude. It's the same dumbasses like your whole Handmaid's Tale pro-abortion chicks and stuff out there that are like, oh, but they're trying to take us into a fascist authoritarian regime. You motherfucking idiots are going to be the ones that will this shit into place, dude. And by the way, it's not going to be people like me getting into power, because I will probably get into power at some point is what it is here, somewhere along the line. But it's not going to be me doing that kind of stuff, dude. It's going to be the person that, like, is not me on camera. Some random dude or some random chick for that matter. It's just like, like a generation underneath me probably is what it'll be. That's just like, what, I fucking have with these motherfuckers too as well. And they are the ones that, like, push the fucking extremism is what it is then, dude. To the opposite side of the pendulum is what it'd be then. So, yeah, it's not going to be good when it happens, though, for real. But anyway. Sorry about that. I forgot. As I hit the unmute button. Sorry, I was blowing my nose real bad because I think my sinuses are ringing like crazy right now. Again, I think it's the weather changing, and then the mix between the pollen in the air and then all the dust that's been kicked up here in the house in the last day or so from my cousin going through our attic and stuff like that to clean everything out then for me, since I'm moving out of here pretty soon is what it is then. But yeah, it's just the whole pain in the ass is what it is though. But anyway, so basically going back to what I was saying though, you have a situation there where you have these people, these leftist types and stuff like that are going to end up willing the right-wing fascism into place is what it is then, dude. Which is kind of ironic because they, as the left-wing people right now, are actually committing fascist tactics in this country. Never Enough Ammo, Matt, said it last night on his chat about how you have these motherfuckers doing like Nazi brown shirt stuff, but it's not just Nazi brown shirt stuff anymore, dude. It's a mix between that and literally Bolshevik color revolutions, I believe is what it is they're trying to pull off right now. And I know for a fact that our own government is involved in some of this shit, dude, because they're definitely trying to commit something is what it is right now. And again, that's why you keep having Biden and the Democrats attack Second Amendment constantly is what it is. And they're, just all over the fucking place is what it is. They're just, trying to attack our rights and trying to make all kinds of false claims like, oh, you couldn't own a cannon in 1776. It's like, yes, you could, you dumb motherfucker. You could literally own warships back then, you jackass, because you literally had a private militia, private military of our founding fathers that owned fucking warships, dude, full of dozens and dozens of cannons. So, this saw a thing pop on my feed right now. It's talking about Chicago is evicting entire groups of illegals out of shelters. Good. Get them the fuck out of our country entirely, dude, for real. Like, close the goddamn border in the fucking book. How about you take care of American citizens first, you jackasses? Oh, yeah, that's right. They're not a voter base for you Democrats. Oh, Leo's here.
Come at the right time.
What's going on?
Came at the right time. I heard my city.
Yeah, I was just going through some stuff. I was actually going through my story of how I became a gun owner and then a 2A advocate. I think we kind of got lost in the mix there is what it is. So, yeah, basically my journey started in the days right before the midterms. Ended up buying a gun a couple days before midterms there in 2018. And then it was obviously you had the Dayton massacre happened then that next August, where it was some Antifa fuck stick and stuff like that pulling that shit. And then it was right after that is when myself and a bunch of other people started to form different organizations we were forming then to try and get to a sanctuary movement going here in Ohio. And then eventually it became a whole thing where we had the 2020 lockdowns, and that kind of, threw a bunch of cold water on us at the time there. And then from there, it was basically, me doing my own thing for a while. During the lockdowns, becoming way more constitutional than I used to be. And then eventually it was 2021. I created Ohio Patriot, or created Ohioans for Firearms Freedom, which was a 2-8 org that I used for over a year of my life to fight for constitutional carry. And then eventually it was 2 years ago today, I created Ohio Patriot Education Network on the what is now anniversary of the day that Ohio passed constitutional carry law.
Yay!
Yeah, that's when
You need an applause button.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have the thing from Discord where it's like, yeah.
Right.
So, but yeah, like I'll tell you what, and this is one thing I will tell people right now. If you're gonna do fighting for Second Amendment rights, like just realize it's gonna be a full-time job for a long ass time of your life. Like you're gonna be sitting there in an uphill battle constantly, and it's because the year I spent to fight for constitutional carry, I was on the phone daily to state reps, state senators, etc., being like, hey, when are you guys going to even bring this to committee hearings? When are you going to pass it to the committee hearings? When are you going to bring it to floor votes? When are you going to bring it to Senate votes, etc., etc.? And I probably made I would say at least 1,000 calls in that time or more. So, and we're talking about between leaving messages for people that were like a minute or two on their phones or just straight up talking to some people in some cases. And finally getting like, oh yeah, we're going to do this tomorrow, or it's going to be, a couple days from now, whatever the case be there. And then eventually it was a couple of days later, and yeah, it was a whole thing. And unfortunately, then you have organizations like the NRA who walked in here at the last fucking minute and totally screwed us over because we had a clean bill completely that could have been way better constitutional carry that would have allowed for no Terry stops, none of that stupid bullshit. But yet you had National Rifle Association come in like the day that we had like the last hearings and get one of the state reps to push in Terry stop shit into it then, and they end up passing that on both chambers then, right at the end. So it got watered down, and it was just really fucking ridiculous and not necessary at all to do that. Like they could have just stayed the fuck out of it completely and been better. We'd be better off right now as a state. So, but that's those guys for you though. They'll sit there and act like they give a fuck about your rights when they don't. That's what it is, because they screw them over constantly. And it's one thing I've seen with a lot of other 2A organizations out there is that they will sit there and try to justify their own ends and being there to fight for your rights. And then meanwhile, they'll send you emails every so often and they'll just be like, hey, I'm trying to fight for your rights, but I'm going to need money now.
Give me
we
money.
Don't take a dime from anybody here at Ohio Education Network. We never have. I never will. I mean, if you want to donate something to me, that's cool, bro. If you want to throw fucking something to like a like a Cash App or something for me, that's cool, because I'll use that money to go literally drive to the fucking state house and fight for rights is what it is then. But yeah, other than that, though, I'll take money out of my own pocket right now and do that kind of stuff, dude, because that's how much I care about the Second Amendment. Because my whole end is not to sit there and make money off of 2A. It's to literally get people's rights restored, get people's ability to have what they need all the way around, and not have a bunch of unconstitutional, tyrannical gun control in place right now.
So you're saying that you're not going to buy a couple of mansions with the money that was supposed to be used for, rights and stuff?
No, I'm not Patrice Concolors.
Yeah. To help out the people is supposed to help out,
Yeah, exactly. Well, and this is exactly why about a year ago now, I created Defenders of Ohioans' Rights. Unfortunately, in that time period, I haven't gotten the money in their coffers yet to get anything done, because the end game for that organization is going to be having a couple of lawyers on our retainer for us, that anybody that gets fucked over, that can be proven that they've been fucked over by the system when it comes to like anti-gun crap that used to be in place, like specifically with before constitutional carry was a thing here. You used to have a thing called mishandling a firearms from motor vehicle charge, which was basically you had a gun without a concealed carry permit, and you got stopped by the cops or something during the nighttime, and it was you were fumbling around your vehicle and throwing it under the seat or something like that, and then of course they looked for it and they did it was considered to be like a I forget what the actual thing is now. It might be a Terry stop thing or whatever the case be, where they have like the right to like search under suspicion or something like that's what it is there or something. I forget exactly what the actual thing is there, but yeah, it's like they can legally search your vehicle, whatever the case be, because it's like suspicion of like crimes or some shit like that or whatever then. Mm-hmm. And it's all unconstitutional BS is what it is, though, and it's Supreme Court garbage, basically, at the end of the day. But yeah, they've done that quite a bit to fuck people over then. And just like that kid there in Toledo a couple years ago, right after constitutional carry became a thing, he was carrying at 19, and now he's a permitted person because he got charged with misdemeanor firearms motor vehicle by somebody under the age of 21, because it's 21 and over for constitutional carry. And then he also caught a couple other charges too on top of that, because I think he had like weed or something on him too as well. So, but yeah, it's a bunch of BS either way, all the way around. So, and that would be one of the people that we would try to help out and get his rights restored for him at some point. Then, if we can get the money together and get lawyers on retainer and stuff like that.
Here's the thing with that: whenever there's weed and firearms together, even if it's legal in your state, it's still not a good idea to have.
Yeah. Well, I've never liked the fact that you have one right infringing upon another, because really, truthfully, like, even in our Bill of Rights, like, we have the ability to do whatever the fuck we want, is what it is, under the 9th Amendment. And the fact that you're telling someone that they can't have, you know, a little bit of marijuana or some edibles or whatever the case be, that they might need for like pain and suffering, you know, decades of pain and suffering in their joints, whatever the case be there is. I can tell you that personally right now from my own experience. And yeah, it's going to infringe on my gun rights then. It's not right at all at that point.
Right.
And it's exactly why we need to have a federal Graham Act at this point, where it would be guns and marijuana together is what it is there. So, because technically speaking, weed should not be a Schedule 1 narcotic. Right. It's not meth. It's not heroin. It's not fentanyl. It's fucking its own thing. It's a medicinal herb is what it really is at the end of the day. And if they did proper studies on it, they could actually show that, yeah, it will take over for a lot of big pharma shit. And that's the problem. That's why big pharma wants to keep it, you know, illegal is what it is, because it would cut into their market share is what it is then. So,
see, the thing is, I'm looking at it as like alcohol. Like, whatever you got the weed in, is it sealed? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of like how alcohol needs to be sealed and not like open.
Yeah, you can't really travel in a little container or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, and I get that too. I actually had an interesting conversation a couple of years ago.
So, right, if it's a sealed weed bottle from a store saying it's sealed, then that shouldn't be no problem.
Yeah. Well, I've also had this conversation a couple of times with people in back chats and stuff like that too, when it came to like booze and stuff, because we were talking about like, you know, why should you drinking a beer or two affect your ability to carry legally? And because there's a difference obviously between people's weights and stuff like that. You know, for people like me who are, you know, 400 plus pounds, you know, I can sit here and drink a 6-pack and still be pretty sober is what it is. Versus like, you know, some 90-pound girl, whatever the case be, she'll probably be either passed out or tipsy as shit at that point then. And yeah, it depends on like, you know, a bunch of varieties and stuff like that. But even still, like, even her being like, you know, tipsy or drunk, should she not be able to still have a gun to protect herself if something were to happen then? So, because that's one thing that's always bothered me about the whole, like, you know, disarmament in bars and restaurants and stuff like that serve alcohol in this country, because all you're doing is creating a gun-free zone that massacres happen at. You know, prime example of that was Dayton 2019. You had some fucking kid go target a place that he knew was going to be pretty much unarmed and killed. It was a bunch of people that I can't remember offhand how many it was now. I think it was 9 or 10, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been more than that even. I know there's like a couple dozen injured then too. So, and then it was like within a minute you had the cops kill him then. But still, he had that, you know, 45, 60 seconds, whatever it was there, to still do his fucking massacre. And even after the fact, he still had to have a gun for it with Dayton police is what it is then. So, yeah, it's just ridiculous either way. But anyway, got a couple of different gun-related stories I do want to talk about here while we're here. So we got some unconstitutional shit out of California here, which is
California, of course.
Gun shows at county fairs in California ban upheld. For those who know about this one, I think this was about 6 years ago, give or take, maybe, where you had it was Newsom and company. They were trying to ban gun shows at county fairs and stuff like that, or like the fairgrounds is what it is there. Because it was mostly the Southern California area. You had gun shows happening there is what it is. And now they're like, oh no, it was unconstitutional to have like guns at these places. And it's like, no, it's not. And now they're basically having some judge uphold the shit is what it is. It's a bunch of BS talking about public safety concerns and everything else like that. It's like, no, public safety concerns is not being armed and being disarmed, and then having California sit there and claim to be like this utopia of gun control, but yet they have more mass shootings than any other place in this entire country every single year. So yeah, it's just a bunch of BS in general. So, but then on the flip side of that, though, we actually got a good win this week, which was the pistol brace rule has now been basically considered null and void. Because you got Biden's ATF loses big in pistol brace case, setting a huge blow to Biden's bid to ban assault weapons. A federal court today ruled that the administration's efforts to regulate and tax AR-15 style pistols is unlawful and illegitimate. In a 12-page decision, the Texas-based U.S. District Court vacated that rule that could have led to a destruction of millions of firearms among the most popular in America and the jailing of owners who had refused to comply with the tyranny. Says court also blasted the ATF for thinking that it could change a long-existing exemption overnight to make ownership of the firearms illegal. In reacting to the case, Mock versus Garland, the Firearms Policy Coalition, which pushed the case, tweeted out what it called the layman's summary. Says, quote, ATF broke the law by began overreaching sneaky pricks. Therefore, the right thing for the court to do was throw the rule out in the trash. Since the court threw the pistol brace rule in the trash, said same court had earlier approved the ATF rule, but an appeals court overruled it. In today's decision, district court judge agreed that the ATF rule was illegal and likely be rejected by other courts. Said case is likely to the U.S. Supreme Court for those involved. Said for now, it is legal to have pistol braces, AR style or otherwise, equipped to your guns. So, yeah. Yay. For me, anyway. I mean, obviously Chicago sucks. So.
Yep.
Well, the state of Illinois entirely, because it's not just your city, it's your entire state that's passing this unconstitutional shit is what it is.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, and then we got this one that was pretty interesting, which is I'm not sure the legality on this myself. I think it's mostly private property you'd have to be on this one, which was, can you take firearms on boats without breaking the law? Like, I would say not if you're in like a public hunting ground, probably. That would be kind of like a shady area, I'm guessing. But I would assume it's like if you're on your own property, you'd be fine though. If you're like duck hunting or whatever the case be there. So. Yeah, it says many states nationwide, a resident with a legal right to possess a firearm can transport one in a car. So can those same guns be taken on boats, or is it high and dry for boaters' gun rights? So whether or not you can take firearms on boats or other vessels depends on the state and local laws. So in short, yes, you can take firearms on boats with a caveat. So as to avoid breaking the law, gun owners must check their state laws before heading out on a body of water within that state's boundaries. For instance, the state of Texas permits boaters who are legally allowed to possess a firearm to transport them on boats. Says Texas treats firearms on boats similar to guns in cars or other vehicles. Specifically, boaters in the Lone Star State may carry a firearm on a boat without special licensing. Conversely, the U.S. Forest Service forbids loaded guns on any public fishing or boating access area, with the exception of those who carry a concealed handgun with a valid concealed carry permit, unless otherwise prohibited by the landowner or posted as such. However, in Texas, as with other states that allow firearms on boats, some waterways raise specific legal considerations. Boaters need to know the specific state and local laws and regulations regarding guns and vessels. Failing to do so could result in confiscation or charges. That said, as long as you are within the legal parameters of your intended waterway, you can carry a firearm on a boat. So that's cool.
Definitely need it in Florida.
Yeah. Well, I know it's well, now I think about it, I mean, it would make sense given the fact that you have like Louisiana where they do like gator hunting and stuff like that, and they're always carrying like 1022s and stuff on those boats. So again, it varies state by state, which is ridiculous. There should be uniformity across the board. It's just like, yes, it's all legal in all 50 states, really, is what it is there. So, but anyway, so let's see, there's a couple other gun stories I had here. Oh, here we go. This was 21 epic guns that shaped America's soul. So this tapestry of the American history is woven with the threads of innovation, reliance, and enduring spirit of freedom. Themes epitomated by the iconic firearms that have shaped the nation's destiny, from the smoke-filled barrel battles of the Old West to the precision tactical engagements of modern conflict. These guns have not only been tools of defense and survival, but have also carved out a unique niche in American cultural identity. So, got the Thompson submachine gun, or the Tommy gun.
Yep, the Chicago typewriter.
Yeah. Which, for those that don't know, the $200 tax stamp on National Firearms Act weapons is because the Tommy gun cost exactly that back in the day. And then we got the Browning high power pistol. Got the Colt single action army revolver, or the Peacemaker, which is a lot of the ones that the old West guys used to use back in the day to do both good and bad things. You had a bunch of outlaws trying to use them to hold up stagecoaches and banks and everything else like that. And you had a bunch of sheriffs and sheriff's deputies walk around with the same things and have battles with these people and stuff like that to catch their asses. So then we got the M1 Garand. Of course, you don't want to get Grand Thumb, so you got to watch that when you chamber those things so you don't slice your thumb off. Then we got the Colt Python revolver, Mossberg 500 shotgun, the Barrett M82 sniper rifle, which would be the 50 cal. We got the Winchester 1873 rifle. Got Beretta 92 pistol, Remington 870 shotgun, the Uzi submachine gun. Got the Springfield 1903, the Colt 1911, Remington Model 700, Smith & Wesson 686, Smith & Wesson Model 29, which is what a lot of police forces used to use back in the day. And both Matt and Honda can tell you that because they have ones from the, I think it was Georgia State Police back in the day that were resold to them, obviously, through gun dealers. Which, from my understanding, I guess this is one of the smoothest guns you can actually have access to from back in the day because it just has like that really just smooth texture to it when it comes to both locking up and double action, single action. So then we got the Ruger 1022, Glock 17, the AK-47, which I don't know what the hell people did to this one. They modified the shit out of it to like an AR is what it is. That is not an AK-47. That is a
If it doesn't have wood, it's not an AK.
Yeah, that's a weird ass like modernized version of it that somebody wants to actually have like rails and stuff on. And of course we got the AR-15/M16, aka the Everman's rifle.
Really, I would just change the stock on the AK. I think that's what throws it off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely doesn't look right at all with that excess stuff on it.
Just the butt stock I would change though.
Well, and again, that's another thing too. Like, yeah, if you're gonna do something like that, don't have the A2 AR butt stock on there. Don't use. By the way, even for ARs, don't use an A2 butt stock because that thing is just garbage. I'll just say, look at this, dude. It has no fucking padding on it at all. There's way better butt stocks in the market right now that you can have on those things. I don't know why that's considered the standard at this point. Like, there should be something else, whether it be Magpul furniture or something else for that matter on there, or even like the equivalent that's like the Chinese M version of that or whatever. Then, so. Anyway, then you got the AR-15, which is literally why we have our modern musket now, is what it is. And then we got the Winchester 1894. And then their conclusion was, as we conclude an exploration of the most iconic firearms, it is clear that these weapons are more than mere instruments of power. They are symbols of the nation's evolution, reflecting its struggles, triumphs, and enduring values. Each firearm, from the rugged revolvers of the frontier's days the associated rifles in the modern era tell a unique part of the American story, embodying the spirit and innovation and reliance. These guns have not only shaped the course of U.S. history, but have also become ingrained in cultural fabric, influencing everything from legislation to entertainment. Ultimately, understanding these iconic firearms offers insight into the complexities of American identity and the pivotal role that these tools of liberty and defense have played in the nation's ongoing narrative. Exactly. So, I feel like there was something else I had here that was gun related too, for that matter.
I would let her own all those weapons.
Oh yeah, here's one. Since we're talking about gun history here as well, I have this one earlier as well, which was 18 most influential guns ever made that completely revolutionized firearms technology. So we got the hand cannon, which was literally how they first did guns. Which was, obviously, for those who don't know, Chinese created gunpowder back in, I think it was like the 1500s or something, maybe even like the 1000 something. And yeah, they basically use like bamboo shoots to shoot off like a single load of like gunpowder and like musket balls and stuff like that. What it was back then, or whatever the hell they had at the time. So, and then you had the arquebus, I think is how I pronounce this, was the ancestor of the musket. Then you have the Colt Patterson Model 1836, which is apparently like a 14 or 16-inch long barrel gun. I feel like that's something you just put on a dude's shoulder to like shoot somebody else with it then.
Right.
See, then we got the device needle gun. Then you had the Lafixi M1854, which just looks fruity as hell, especially with that trigger guard. Then we had the volcanic rifle, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was the first lever action. That was a repeatable gun. Then you had the Colt Model 1889. Gatling gun, which is what our founding fathers actually patented in this country, by the way. They used to have technology at the time to actually make them, a bunch of them is what it was. So that's why they weren't considered to be like modern use or what do you call it now? Common use. That's what it is. Right. So, and then we had the Spencer Model 1882 pump action shotgun.
Man, look at the pump.
Yeah, that is like the teeniest fucking pump I've ever seen in my entire. That's like a one finger pump, basically. Like your finger and your thumb are like the pump action part of it or something. It makes sense why they used to call them corn cob, because that's definitely the size of a corn cob. All right, then we got the Maxim gun, which again was something that was very like sparse back then, just because of how much it cost to make and production value and everything else like that to carry it around and shit. Then we got the Colt 1911, which seems like everybody in the brother's making a 1911 after this now.
Yep.
I mean, Colt had an interesting concept. I like their original grips on there. I've never been a fan of like just the regular hammer and the regular trigger either, though. I've always been a fan of skeletonized trigger, skeletonized hammer, with like some kind of like a wood grip panel or something like that. Then that's just me personally. If I was going to have a 1911, I'd buy something like that. That's what it is there. So, and then we got the Browning M2. And we got the Walther PP, aka the James Bond gun. Actually, might have been PPQ if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Yeah. And then we had the Walther P38, which this is basically what was considered to be like the German Nazi gun back in the day. Because a lot of German officers used that shit during World War II. That is a weird design too on that, because you can tell like it almost looks like they took like they were trying to make a gun with like a decent sized barrel over the case, but they could have easily had it like stop right at the end of this, and it would have probably been just as accurate. But instead, you put like 4 more inches of barrel after the actual like rest of the slide. Yeah, it just looks really awkward. Yeah, then we got the M1
Dolphins
Garand.
in the chat.
He has a link. You can get in here too as well. So, see, then we got the STG 44. I know somebody, I think it's PSAs, were making this as like a semi-automatic version or something now. So,
Of course, it was called. It probably cost a grip of money.
yeah. Then we got the M16. Which here's a fun history fact for anybody out there that doesn't know this. Back in Vietnam, when the M16 became the go-to rifle for the U.S. military, you had some dumbass federal senator back then decide, hey, you know what would be a good idea to cut costs? Let's go ahead and change out the gunpowder used in the shells for these guns, and let's go ahead and cheap out on the actual powder. Not realizing that, hey, dumbass, they're literally fighting in the fucking jungle. It gets hot as balls there. And so, yeah, the powder they changed out to, it was like this crazy, like, sticky shit is what it is, or whatever the case be. That was more or less glue when it was fired then. And so what ended up happening was you had a bunch of soldiers in Vietnam, usually infantry for army and stuff like that, who would go into firefights, start shooting off a mag at the Viet Cong to take out their enemy is what it is there. And then it's like 2-3 rounds in, it just stops working because it jammed up the entire action and had bullets stuck in the, or had bullet casing stuck in the, that weren't ejecting out basically.
When you're into a conflict.
Yeah. And it got, as far as I'm aware, it got a lot of people killed too. So that's what really, it should bother everybody on that one too, because it's like how many people's uncles, fathers, grandfathers, etc. were killed unnecessarily because some dumbass fucking senator decided, oh, let's cheap out on fucking military weaponry. So yeah, it's just retarded basically. We got number 18 was a Glock 17. So 18 to 18 was Glock 17. It's always Glock though. I'll tell you what, man. Like there's so like, and I'm not gonna sit there and not Glock that much because it's like, you know, it has created like so many clones of itself then, and its technology for the, you know, side tab takedown and stuff like that has gone into other firearms like the ones I own from like Taurus and stuff. So
yeah,
but yeah, they definitely, I feel like Glock's biggest enemy is themselves, honestly, because they just never innovated. Because they're like, we don't need to, you know, because obviously their whole thing probably got started was basically just giving free guns to the cops to try to get them to, you know, switch over to their gun then is what it was. And they were switching from revolvers to some autos then. And then you just had a bunch of people being like, well, I want that too. And then it was obviously you had everybody in Hollywood using those in the beginning of the 90s and shit like that. And a lot of action movies and things. And so everybody else is like, oh yeah, I want that now too. And then, of course, it's basically it's never innovated the design of it, even though you could have, and it could have been a better gun overall then, because, yeah, like the way this is designed is not fit to the hand properly. And there is way better versions out there that are Glock clones that fit your hand and grip into your hand way, way better. So, but anyway. So that's it for that one. Let's go and check out Bearing Arms for a couple minutes here. See what they got going on currently for their stories of the day here. For our second anniversary stream. Got Colorado Gun Control Group rescinds endorsement after candidate tweets resurface. Let's check this one out. Says just weeks before Colorado's primary on June 25th, one of the state's biggest gun control groups is yanking its endorsement of a state legislative candidate over old posts on social media. Brandon Lindstrom, a state house candidate in Denver, suburb of Aurora, I think it's Honda's there if I'm not mistaken, was co-endorsed by Ceasefire Colorado along with his primary opponent, Mitch Carter. Earlier this week, however, Ceasefire informed Carter that he was no longer the only candidate, or no longer endorsed candidate in the race because the group had discovered tweets from him that were supposedly inconsistent with the views he laid out in his candidacy survey. It says, quote, in a 2020 tweet, he, a school teacher, said he used to be for gun bans and supported the state's red flag law, but has since changed his opinion due to the effect of background checks on communities of color. So in 2021 tweet, he argued that gun control has always been racist and classist, because it fucking has been. Yep. Said another, he said he is a super pro-gun dude. Says, well, many of his statements align with progressive policies. They contradicted the responses he gave to the candidate's questionnaire and are inconsistent with the group's values. Dave Plank, Ceasefire's communications director, says that accordingly, we have rescinded our endorsement of him. Says for his part, Langstrom maintains there was no inconsistency in his previous positions and what he told Ceasefire Colorado. Said throughout the questionnaire, I hit on nuances of going upstream to reduce gun violence and how outright bans are not my preferred approach to policy. He told Colorado Politics, said as an Aurora school teacher, I have experienced gun violence firsthand with the shooting of my assistant principal and the school shooting where I teach. Oh, okay, that was the guy who, I think that was the one with the young black kid who was being patted down every day, and he pulled a gun on the school resource officer and the principal then and killed both of them or something. So anyway, said, this is an issue I care deeply about. However, I also know that more stricter laws over time lead to more and worse police interactions with BIPOC communities. He said, adding, I support evidence-based gun violence prevention and always have. At the end of the day, I will address every piece of legislation in a way that protects our working class communities of color. So, yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. Since for all the talk about supporting community gun violence prevention, we hear from gun control activists, the truth is that those efforts are secondary to the real goal of the anti-gun movement, eradicating the right to keep and bear arms through punitive laws and heavy-handed law enforcement. Said Langstrom is an out and proud progressive who, in another social media post from 2020, said that, quote, gangs are the response to racist capitalism and can be good. Jesus. This guy sounds like straight up BLM at that point.
Sure. Yeah.
Said, but so long as he isn't in favor of new gun control laws, he won't ever be in the good graces of the gun control lobby. Said, to be fair, I doubt, this person wrote this, I doubt Langstrom's positions are going to earn him any support from Second Amendment organizations either. On his campaign website, he outlines his goals for addressing so-called gun violence if elected, and several of his positions aren't exactly what you'd expect from someone who's called himself super pro-gun. His positions include, quote, fight to address the material conditions that lead to violence and deaths of despair, like housing, thriving wages, healthcare access and education, support legislation that reduces and funds gun locks and gun safes for all Colorado gun owners, support negligence laws if your firearm is used in a crime, so basically victimize the person who had their shit stolen twice, support access to and requirements for gun safety courses. How about you start by taking a constitutional course there, buddy, to even run for office? Oh yeah, that's right, you're not going to do that either. Let's see, it said hold manufacturers and sellers accountable for enforcement of gun laws. So essentially break Lawful Commerce and Arms Act, what we're talking about there on that one. It says ensure that gun laws do not lead to the targeting of marginalized groups. And then finally, it was support evidence-based gun legislation that is proven to reduce violence, which is absolute horseshit. No anti-gun legislation has ever reduced violence. It's in fact led to more violence. It's led to more criminals being able to get a hold of guns and armed citizenry not being able to have anything is what it is then. So it's just like Biden's gun control bullshit from the 1990s has led to every single mass shooting for 34 fucking years now is what it is in schools and other gun-free zones. So anyway, we got Delaware town penalizes gun stores because one got robbed. Fucking ridiculous. Washington state's exposed gun-free zones take effect today. Bunch of horseshit. And we got Gays Against Guns uses Pulse Anniversary to push gun control. Oh, Jesus
wonderful.
Christ.
How nice.
Who the hell would call their organization Gays Against Guns? Like, isn't that kind of like oxymoronic, especially like it's basically saying chickens for KFC or, you know,
right.
trans for Palestine or something like that, dude. Like, it's fucking stupid. So anyway, we got death of an Illinois gun store. I'm guessing that's something about your state there. So we asked Wilmington residents what they thought of Hunter Biden's verdict. Their reactions were priceless.
Well, I could say at least I wish this one gun store was still around. It takes me like 20 minutes to get to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
the closest one I have right now to me is the town over, which is about maybe a 10-minute drive or so. The problem with that place is, and that's the first one. That's the first when I was first going to back in 2018. That was the first place I went into because I was going to support mom and pop shops. Is what it is there. And yeah, the only thing they had like the problem with that place is it's like gun store within a bigger place. That's like an auto body place, and so you basically have like a room that's like the size of my living room here that has like literally 3 locked cases in it and like almost like a triangle pattern there. And actually, no, I guess it'd be like a 3 square pattern because if you had a 4th case, it'd be like a 4, like a rectangle basically, or whatever the case be, shape or whatever then. And yeah, it's just a bunch of BS is what it is. And you had like a couple Glocks, a couple SIGs, like pretty much nothing under like, I think it was like $400 or something like that. I'm just like, can you order this thing for me? And the guy's like, yeah, we just need a deposit. So, and that's how I got my first gun then.
Yeah, I think the oldest sold the building to a McDonald's or something. I was like, God damn it.
That place, I'll tell you what, man, like, oh my God, that, if you ever saw a place in a small town that could easily be robbed, like that place was fucking it, man. Because when mom and I went in there, first of all, they had the shop itself closed because there's nobody actually in the shop at the time, whatever the case be. So you had to like buzz for service, basically what it is there. And we sat around for like at least a good 20 minutes, a half hour. So I'm looking around and I look over this one area that wasn't even locked off or anything like that. And you just had a bunch of fucking rifle boxes and like shotgun boxes there that were full. Like I could have easily just grabbed like 3 shotguns and boxes and just walked out with the shit. And not do anything at that point. And then it was when I went back a few weeks later then to get my shit. They had apparently fixed that issue then because they had at least locked the things. What it is. I mean, they still had a stupid ass like open area there, but
right.
At least they were like trying to fix it is what it was there. But yeah, it's like, dude, like y'all don't even realize how quick you could have been robbed here. So, but yeah, it's ridiculous what it is. But yeah, that place it's okay. The only thing I'd ever do with them again would probably be like transfer fees and stuff like that because they'd be the cheapest around is what it is though. But I know there's another place over here behind me in this town that I live right next to. There's a guy opening the gun shop there pretty soon. So I'm going to look into him maybe for possible transfer fees in the future then. And then my regular shop is about probably a 20-ish minute drive up into Belton there in Canton and stuff, which is Finn. So, which is also, it's basically a sporting goods store. It's more or less like a statewide version of Dick's that actually gives a shit about gun rights.
Right.
Because they have their gun counters at the very back, and then they have at the front, you basically walk into their sliding glass doors there or whatever, and then it's off to your direct right. There's like a couple shelves there that have like various non-lethal stuff like pepper spray and extendable batons and stuff like that you can buy. And then it's like a little bit further down, they have like a pellet gun counter there. That's like all the different stuff that's like very similar to what you can have as the practice weapons and stuff like that for actual like Glocks and whatnot then, just to get your firearms proficiency in there without actually having to spend a bunch of money to, buy ammo and everything like that then. And then it's the opposite side is where a couple of their registers are at and stuff like that. And if you go further that way, it's where all their fishing supplies and stuff like that are, rods, reels, baits, everything like that then. And then it's farther back into the second set of rows is where they have like various archery stuff. And then it's like further closer to the gun counters is where all the ammo and everything else that goes at and all the gun accessories. And then of course the very back is where they got the gun counters at, where they're always like signs posted everywhere where it's like no filming at all. And I'm like, yeah, I could see that. That would make sense. Because, again, like, and I get why you want people filming there because you're thinking, oh, yeah, you're just trying to case the place to rob it later is what it'd be then or something. So, But anyway. Then we got RFK Jr.'s VP pick warns about Biden gun control agenda. Let's check this one out. So Robert F. Kennedy Jr. comes from Democrat royalty, but he's running as an independent. Then again, he's got some views that are far out of the mainstream that Democrats wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. Yet some of his views show that he hasn't completely broken away from the family roots. After all, he admits to that an assault weapons ban won't do much, but would still sign off on one who became president. Said he picked a vice president candidate that no one has ever heard of. Then again, she at least is capable of talking sense. Says independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s vice presidential nominee Nicole Statham affirmed her support for Second Amendment as the Biden-Harris campaign continues to push for tougher gun control policies. Shanahan, yeah, that's probably right. Yeah, sorry, my mind is out of it today. I've been feeling great all day. Says during the long-form podcast with YouTuber Ian Carroll, Shanahan said Second Amendment is really important to preserve, and if the issue is gun shootings and mass shootings, which is the real issue, we need to get to the root cause of the issue, which in many cases is follow homes, like I've mentioned many times here is what it is, and I mentioned again today. That's one aspect of it. Another aspect of it is, again, gun-free zones being in place right now. So taking away liberties often obfuscates the issue around mental health is not going to lead us to a better tomorrow, Shanahan said. Said maybe that makes me less liberal, but I actually think it makes me quite actually progressive in my thinking that we can't strip people of their liberties ever. Well, at least she's smart about that one, honestly. So, yeah, I don't know. It would be an interesting ticket for sure then. RFK Shanahan. So, I mean, obviously after the shit Trump pulled yesterday, I'm getting kind of sour on his ass at this point. He decided to go hang out with that piece of shit Logan Paul, who's known anti-gun fuckboy, and he handed him a mega one of the mega mugshot shirts or something like that, and some hats and shit.
Well, Logan, I figured that Logan Paul doesn't know shit about guns or gun.
He doesn't know shit about anything.
Yeah, so like, I wouldn't make that a big deal.
Well, but this is the problem, right?
It was something somebody told him to say.
Well, that's the thing. But he's the exact generation, though, that has bought into this fucking nonsense. He has sat there and espoused this crap, and to an audience of like young, impressionable, first-time voters in many cases, that will still sit there and be all like, "Oh no, but it's perfectly fine, man." And it's like, no, it's not. Like, attacking the Second Amendment is not okay, bro. And it's like, what have you heard over Ohio, Logan? Oh, yeah, fucking nothing, even though you literally were born here, buddy. Neither has your idiot brother Jake, for that matter. You're both a couple of damn felons that haven't got charges yet, is what it is there. So, which, by the way, they should both be prohibited people at this point, because Jake actually, during 2020 riots, stole shit from an Arizona mall during the riots, and then Logan stole shit some other time is what it is then. That would have caught them felony charges in many states then. So,
I mean, they're court jesters.
They are.
Respect, yeah.
They're fucking the generation of ass clownery is what it is here, and I'm just getting sick and tired of what it is there. So. And then we got this story here, which was man arrested for selling guns to start a race war. It's like, sounds about right. So there are a lot of people out there with some bizarre ideas. Some, like the flat earthers, are funny, even if unintentionally so. Same for the people that say birds aren't real, etc., etc. Says, yes, communism and socialism are examples, but they're far from the only examples. Some people are desperate to start a war in this country. Well, that may happen sooner or later. It makes sense to try to avoid that as possible. Fortunately, a man in Arizona was arrested for selling 2 rifles to undercover FBI agents. The reason he was selling them to 2 agents, they posed as potential mass shooters. Says Mark Adams Pinto wasn't the most clandestine about his plans to incite a race war, FBI said. The 58-year-old man who was arrested last month unknowingly babbled to the FBI agent about his spine-chilling plan to shoot up a rap concert and even sold 2 automatic rifles to the agents on the assumption that they were going to commit the massacres for him. Jesus Christ, dude.
That seems useless. A rap concert is going to get shot up anyway.
I know, right?
Right.
Like, I mean, bro, like, Jesus.
Right.
Like, I mean, at
That's
least
the
be
finale.
smart about it.
Right.
Like,
I mean, a shootout is the finale. Right. It's
yeah.
typical finale anyway.
Or it would be like a riot, like, what was that, like Astro World a couple years back now?
Oh, yeah.
When
When he
like, stomped
passed
to death
down
and shit.
dying. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, Jesus, guy, like, make it a little less obvious there that you're a racist.
And they're going to shoot back at you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, just ridiculous is what it is. Yeah, people are not the sharpest tools in the shed these days, it seems like.
No.
So, anyway. Let's see if we have anything else we want to talk about there. I do want to talk about that gays against gun story here in a second. I need to do something real quick, though. So, you got anything you want to speak on for a couple minutes? Go ahead and do that.
Oh, shoot. I have nothing. I haven't even... I've barely been on the shows. I've barely been reading the news. It's been... I only had one day off of work this week.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been going in super early.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we got like corporate stuff coming next week. So,
yeah. I
have zero knowledge of what's going on right now.
Yeah, I know how that is. Dude, that's one thing with my mom when she used to work at the Walmarts and stuff. They would get a heads up when they were going to have like the superiors from Arkansas come through and stuff like that. To do like walkthroughs of the stores, and they're just like, okay, everybody, we got like 3 days to clean this place up. Do the best you can. And then sure enough, it looked all spick and span when they got there, but then it was like 2 days later, it was like a shit again, basically. So, but yeah, it's just ridiculous what it is, though. So, anyway, let's see. Actually, I do want to talk about this one real quick before we get into that gays against gun story. Which was, you got AOC's dumbass coming out of the woodwork and boldly claims the Supreme Court is paving the path to authoritarianism. Says the chick who's literally pushed fascist ideology in the last, 6 years. Along with this idiot Jamie Raskin the other day pushing for anti-gun bullshit again. It's like, who's the real authoritarianist? Who's the real authoritarianist? Cortez? Oh yeah, that's right, people like your ass. Fucking dumb cunt. I don't understand why we even allow her ass to be in Congress right now. Just really infuriates shit out of me at this point, man.
There's a lot of people who don't understand why they're in Congress.
Well, it's all voter fraud and everything else like that, then. Anyway, so then we got the last story of the day here that we're going to do, which is gays against guns, uses policy anniversary to push gun control. It says Paul shooting in Orlando was a particularly awful event. It held the dubious record for the worst mass shooting in modern history right up until it was eclipsed by Las Vegas. Pulse was also done, by the way, by an Islamic terrorist whose daddy had direct ties to Hillary Clinton that nobody talks about. So, and she'd been a person multiple times over. And was also a threat to society because he was on the FBI's radar, but yet he was never actually arrested. Anyway, so the fact that it was motivated by a combination of Islamic extremism and homophobia made it particularly vile, marking it as the worst anti-gun attack in U.S. history. So that's Wednesday, marked the 8th anniversary. So we had to know someone was going to use the opportunity to push for gun control. They always do. And as on cue, someone did. Said local community is embracing the victims of Paul's nightclub shooting that killed dozens of people in Orlando, Florida. On the 8th anniversary of the tragedy, said, quote, this year especially, it's important to remember that hate kills, said Gays Against Guns President Jay Walker. Said this kind of bigotry that a lot of these people out there are espousing leads to violence against LGBTQ people, and that's what happened at Pulse. Really? Is it bigotry that people are espousing, or is it saying, hey, stay the fuck away from the kids and stop trying to groom them into your pedophile bullshit, dude?
Right.
You know, it's just
think so.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was saying, right. That would be the obvious.
Yeah.
Can you stop grooming kids?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason why that was a group called Gays Against Groomers now, dude. Like, they're more pro 2A than the fucking Gays Against Guns. So, anyway.
But apparently, you said stop grooming kids would get you kicked out for Call of Duty.
Yeah. It was a somber vigil culminated with a silent procession at Christopher Street Pier, just steps away from the iconic site of the Stonewall Inn riots. Says organizers paid tribute to the victims of the horrific act of violence in Orlando that killed 49 people and 53 others in 2016. Which, by the way, the only reason that was able to happen was, shocker, the Pulse nightclub was a gun-free zone under the Gun-Free Schools Act 1990 that Biden created. Again, blame Biden, because he literally created the fucking place that caused the shit. The legislation that caused the place to be a gun-free zone and killed almost 50 people, as it was. It said, quote, we saw interactions of attacks on gay people and gun violence, said some dude. That queer people are killed more by a gun than other people, and it made sense for gay people to be a voice for gun violence protection fight. Then carry a fucking gun! Like, if you want to protect yourself, dude, carry a firearm. Like, that's the fucking solution. Seriously. Protect yourself. You're your own first responder there, bud. And it's his last point is a common sense talking point, although there are questions about where the information comes from. At least one survey found gay people were more likely to be victimized as a whole, but there was no mention of gun violence specifically against them. Says, yet, for the sake of argument, let's assume that was true. After all, LGBT community believes it enough. It would be hard to convince them otherwise, so let's run with it. Says, we know that criminals have a tendency to get guns no matter what. We know that the Pulse shooting is an anomaly when it comes to violence, as most mass shootings tend to be. It says more pedestrian crimes are far more common, even though they're ultimately hate crimes. So if that's all true, then would you want to be disarmed? Why wouldn't you be carrying guns yourself? Exactly. It says Gays Against Guns formed in the days after the Pulse shooting. So did Operation Blazing Sword, which connects LGBTQ individuals with people who are willing to help them arm themselves. It says Gays Against Guns don't speak for the entire community because a lot of these folks actually recognize that the only thing that stops a violent, hateful person is someone with the means to defend themselves against that person. Exactly. Then, of course, you got like Pink Pistols, as well as another organization out there that's pro gay folks and teaches them how to protect themselves and stuff like that, do courses and everything else like that, which we heard a High Pitch Education Network, by the way. We don't discriminate against anybody unless you want to be a dick against white people because you can go fuck yourself then. Then I won't even bother to teach your ass at that point. But no, I'm seriously getting to the point right now where I'm going to start in the next probably 6 months to a year after I get the money from the house sale and stuff like that. I'm actually going to start doing range trips with people and teaching them how to shoot and become first-time pro gun people then, hopefully. So we'll be doing basic firearm safety courses and stuff like that then. And I'm going to hopefully be able to get my certification to become instructor then. So at some point in the next 6 months to a year or so. So anyway, that's my future plans for this time next year, is to be some kind of certified instructor and be able to actually teach people firearm safety is what it is then. And actually be able to say we're multiple things with a pro gun group at this point. So, but yeah, other than that though, these organizations that just want to be gun haters is what it is, or just idiocy is what it is, man. Nothing's going to stop a person intent on killing someone unless you have the means to stop them yourself is what it is. If they really want to do a massacre, the only way to stop them is use deadly force against them is what it is then. And fight fire with fire literally is what it is. And if you're not going to do that, you're just going to be a victim, and you're just going to be showing that victimized areas like gun-free zones need to be completely done away with in this country is what it is. Which they should have been done away with over 20 years ago now is what it is. And unfortunately, people don't want to see that because it would actually, in a lot of cases, break their NPC brains is what it is. So, what can you do? You can try to call it out. You can try to advocate against it, obviously. At the end of the day, it's up to them to be, woken up from the insanity and arm themselves. And like I said, if y'all want to get armed here in Ohio, get in Ohio area, and be able to get, basic firearm safety, come find me, dude. I'm here. I'll teach you what you need to know. And if I can't do it myself, I'll find somebody who can is what it is then. So, But yeah, don't be a victim, man. Don't be a victim in a country where you can easily be a good person with a gun that stops a bad person with a gun. Be the person that stops the massacre from happening to begin with. And it's really as simple as that. Any last words, Leo, before we go?
Carry all the time. Or when you can.
Yeah. Well,
Much
I would say
possible.
Depending on what state you're in, because obviously, we have the anti-gun states and we have pro-gun states. If you're in a constitutional carry state, carry everywhere legally that you can carry constitutionally, and try not to break the law if you can help it.
Yeah, don't do that.
But don't disarm yourself, dude, because at the end of the day, a sign is just a fucking sign. It's not going to stop you from anything, and it's also not going to stop people that are intent on doing you harm in places that would be a gun-free zone. So really, my best advice is don't carry into federal or state courthouses. Everywhere else is kind of eh. So, but
and
anyway.
move it to a red state.
Yeah, pretty much fight for better laws, and really just stop giving Democrats your money, because at the end of the day, it's not going to work out for you. They hate your rights. They always have. Rhinos do too, for that matter, and they're openly advocating for it nowadays. People are so, whether it be the Democrats here most recently that are openly coming out at a federal level and being like, oh yeah, and this is why we hate your rights to be able to protect yourself, et cetera, et cetera. This is why I want to steal your shit, basically, so we can have you disarmed and be dead from the illegals we're bringing to our country. Realize what it is now. So, yeah, it's just all kinds of fuckery is what it is, and it's not okay. It's not legal. It's not constitutional. It's all high treason, and it should be treated as such. And it's time that we, as a country, fight back against the tyranny, and it starts and ends with us being able to protect ourselves from tyrants is what it is. The Second Amendment was literally created to kill tyrants, end of story. It wasn't for hunting. It wasn't for fucking shooting sports and stuff like that.
Nope.
It was literally to, at the time of our founding fathers' history, kill the British Empire and repel them from our fucking nation so that we could have our own fucking country of freedom.
Yep.
Exactly why the First Amendment is about freedom of speech, the press, etc., expression, religion, all that stuff. And that's why the Second Amendment protects our rights to protect our First Amendment and everything else in the Bill of Rights. And it's really that simple.
And Daniel said, don't forget to vote for our orange daddy.
Yeah. I mean, I might give Trump another chance, honestly. He just really needs to stop doing stupid shit right now. Like hanging out with Logan Paul or talking about Operation Warp Speed being a good thing. So, because he's really shooting himself in the foot right there, man. Although I will say,
Star Trek.
I will say one thing. Though. It was Trump who told Kevin where the lobby was. Biden would have never told Kevin where the lobby was. For those don't know that reference, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, was shot in the quote-unquote Plaza Hotel, which was a hotel that Trump owned at the time. I forget what the actual hotel is called right now. But it was the hotel that Trump went at the time in the 90s, and he had a cameo in that movie where he literally told Kevin where the lobby was when he went to go check into the hotel is what it was. So, which is kind of fucked up because I've seen several edits where they've actually edited out that scene entirely for TV edits and stuff. And I don't know if it's because people are just hating on Trump in Hollywood now or what it is, but it seemed like it was after 2020 or maybe like right around 2019 or so, give or take, when they started doing like a TV edit where they just completely clipped out that like 10-second, 20-second clip is what it is there, which is just ridiculous is what it is. So, and it really does go to show that Trump derangement syndrome is a real thing and people are insane and, what can you do? But anyway, other than that though, that's where I'll be after the day though. I will be back tomorrow. I'm waiting to hear from my cousin right now if we're going to go to the place and get some unclaimed freight stuff or not in the morning. And if we do that, I'll do a reseller Friday. If not, I'm not going to do one of those. I will do Freedom Friday though tomorrow afternoon for sure though. Probably around the same time here, 6-7 o'clock, place in there. And other than that, on the second anniversary of Ohio Patriot Education Network's founding and the second anniversary of constitutional carry,
congrats.
My advice to everyone in Ohio is be carrying today because you never know if you're going to need it or not. And especially with the way things are going and the fact that we're catching ISIS terrorists in this country already trying to commit massacres, shit's about to go fucking south is what it is, people. So make sure that you are not defenseless against the craziness coming through our southern border or northern border, for that matter, even. So, yeah, protect yourself and protect your ones you love, and make sure that you are not going to be a victim of terrorism in this country. Have a good one, y'all. Later.
What kind of